to join channel here over at Subscribestar. So Elliot page doesn't look too happy. I wanted to make this video. I got excited and I thought, how am I going to do this for YouTube? Making videos is harder and harder if you want to like actually talk about what's going on, because I know how difficult things are to do on YouTube because Google has a narrative. And that is pretty much the total destruction of order and structure in their globalist goal of subversion and corruption. They are really just the filthiest parasites. So they, them, Paige, who was sort of a grade B actor 20 years ago. I think she was in Juno. I think that was 20 years ago. That's kind of the only thing I remember her from. But then she went into streaming shows, and it seemed like she was cruising along just fine. She's pretty much more famous for doing interviews and coming across as a overly emotional, just insane, cliche liberal, insane, and just repeating left-wing talking points, but always kind of arguing from an appeal to emotion and not from an appeal to from logic. And she never seemed happy. Like, how hard is it if you're a well-known actor, reasonably successful, to just find a man, get married, have kids, grow some radishes and spinach? Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Resisting what you're supposed to do just makes things like you're just kind of going looking for trouble. Kind of first world. A lot of this stuff is first world issues. In fact, a lot of stuff you're seeing right now throughout the West is just a lot of first world stuff. Anyway, so she has no excuse to just not to jump into life and start bringing forth life. I think she says she's into women or something, but I kind of wonder if that's real or if that's just kind of part of her mental health issues. I was watching YouTube Shorts last night and I spent way too much time on it. And there's like, it's kind of the TikTok thing. And what all that felt like was people just trying to distract you from first world issues with all these just really dumb videos about people are so desperate to produce content. And it's like you look at these TikTok type of shorts videos and most of it is just pointless. It's just there to distract you from something else more important that's going on. Anyway, so I sort of doubt that the levels of BLT attraction that are going on right now are, actually organic and they're not from psychological pressure. Just like some kind of mass hysteria of flowers for Algernon, but at a societal level. People watching Sodom and Gomorrah getting the asbestos umbrellas handy because I think it's getting close. Anyway, so at the time, still are, I suppose, and was having mental health issues. Sounded like somebody who was just way, way too deep into their own head and too isolated and not connected with a healthy tribal community of her family and tribe. And it seems like, there's a lot of mental health issues in the left wing. There's actually a study that came up the other day that talked about people who are on the left end of the spectrum, and there's actually been more than one study that came out, and there's some very serious, dangerous mental health issues with people on the left. And part of that is just being part of Hollywood. But the thing is, you can remain an actor and you don't have to be involved in all that eyes wide shut degeneracy if you don't want to. And if you're in Hollywood or the music industry and it's just really too many crazy people or too many drugs that you just can't seem to get away from, then it's flat out better to just leave it and just pack it up. Go buy a farm and just start a YouTube gardening channel. It's not worth staying in Hollywood and letting it destroy you. I remember in the 90s, I thought that at the time it was so crazy, but Izzy Stradlin left GNR. Something to do like there's too much drugs in the band and it was just too dangerous to his physical health and his mental health. So I think after like in the middle of the Use Your Illusions, he just decided to leave. And it sounded kind of crazy at the time, leaving like one of the biggest rock bands at the time. But then you look back at it as an adult and you go, oh yeah, that was the wise choice. Like, absolutely, absolutely. You're in something that is just so toxic. And you would see what happened to the other members of the band. They had like heart attacks and strokes from drug issues. It's like, yeah, no amount of money or fame is worth having that kind of health issues. Anyway, so for in his case, he had money, so he just went out to, I don't know, Kansas or something and bought a farm and he rode motorcycles and he made his own music. Staying in a band wasn't worth staying in a band so you could die of an overdose or something. It's a really this is like a perfect. I don't know. It's passive aggressive. It's just she's hitting all the notes, or they are hitting all the notes of. So I don't know if you what the gender rules are on YouTube. Twitter, you can do whatever the hell you want now, but They're virtue signaling and talking about their privilege, and like you're repeating things without ever stopping to think about any of these kind of things. So at the time, Ellen Page was having what sounded like anxiety and depression, and one would think, oh, I'll talk to a therapist and they'll give me some perspective. But you can't do that anymore because the therapists now are crazier than the patients. I know it's always kind of been that way, but society now is making it so that you're better off not going to a therapist. And I never would have said that before, which is the case here because the shrink sent this woman who was depressed and who was self-harming to a doctor who removed healthy body parts and put her on testosterone and human growth hormone so she could be her true self, which I would have assumed was the her before the drugs and surgery. You know, accept yourself as you are. Yeah, for sure, eat right, exercise, but you don't remove body parts because the voices in your head told you to, because that's just crazy. I mean, that's been the definition of crazy for a long time. The whole belief's not in accord with reality. And shows you the power of the media and government schools that they can try to remake your perception of reality. I mean, it's the ultimate gaslighting. I guess this is mass hysteria on a large first world scale where they're trying to remake society to get you to believe things. If they can get you to believe absurdities, then they will commit atrocities against you, and you see the atrocities. I don't know if you've seen some of the post-surgery images. I don't think you can. I don't know if you can show them on YouTube. It's something you have to see to know what you're dealing with, because you just won't believe that it's all actually happening. Like it will change your worldview to see these post-surgery images. And first you'll think they're fake, somebody's trolling you. You realize, no, this is all actually happening. It's all actually real. I get into more of that on Odyssey, BitChute, and Subscribe Star. Anyway, so the funny thing about this industry, and it's kind of an evil genius. It is, I mean, it is from a business point with a lot of acumen going on there. It's like 20 years ago, it was 3 clinics, I think. Now it's a $50 billion industry and growing. And it's genius because it creates an industry out of thin air, and it creates lifelong patients for, whatever period of time that means. And they're not likely to sue you because their own peer group will pressure them not to talk about adverse issues with the procedure. Yes, this is Weimar. Get your gardens, your prepping, your form your local hiking clubs and all that. Get all the things you might need to be ready. Not to be hyperbolic, but this is a metastable society. So whatever happens, always be prepared and say nothing happens. Everything just continues as it is into this slow, I don't know, corruption and subversion into just kind of like a Brazilification of society. And there is nothing that actually flips the switch to ignite this. Well, like preparing is not going to hurt you. Like preparing for the zombie apocalypse or for earthquakes or for weather. It's like yeah, it doesn't matter what and it's it really tells you something when the left wing very much doesn't want you to prepare, because they want you dependent on the state because they're dependent on the state. And then you go, yeah, but we saw what happened with Hurricane Katrina. I think was it Black Pilled or Black Pigeoned or something on Odyssey did a video on the true story behind Hurricane Katrina, and it's just horrific. It's just horrific what happened. He goes, yeah, you're dependent on the state, or you could just prepare. But it's not just preparing as an individual. It's talking to people who are in your location, because you'll need people who are locally available to do things together. Anyway, so Boy Scout motto, right? Always be prepared, I think. So now that was the Boy Scout motto. Now I don't know what the new Boy Scout motto is. Probably like, we're Girl Scouts now. So now Elliot Page has removed her breasts and takes drugs, human growth hormone and testosterone shots to her rear end to be her true self, and they look like they are not happy. Very, very much not happy. Like terminally not happy. At this point, I think it's better for people to form groups centered around resisting this globalist propaganda, which would nucleate around homeschooling and forming separate communities where their kids can be kept from this kind of societal contagion, this brainwashing. From the thing is, like, you're not gonna, like, family hour or family night is not gonna resist like 12 hours of media and government school propaganda. Like, you're just not able to counter that. The only way to counter that is to shut it off in its entirety. And the easier way to do that is with a support structure, which is why the left is very much not is very much against homeschooling and forming independent communities. What do they call it? Like, I did a video on the alt platforms and Subscribestar about the granola. There's an article called Granola Hugo Boss, but the other word for it. It's fascinating. It's fast. Farmers markets are fashionable, is their argument. It's just the bizarre arguments. In fact, I'm going to do another video on that later. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next episode.